Hey everyone, and thanks for tuning in. I wanted to take some time to discuss my mission to Duna, where the goal was to land 2 landers on the surface, 1 on each pole. And this video will showcase the hardware that I used to accomplish the mission. So here we are, coming up on fairing separation and stage separation of our first launch, which is launching the Interplanetary 3, which is a vehicle I made. It's a nuclear powered vehicle. It's more of a station that can hold up to 11 crew. It was designed with aerobraking in mind from the start, so it's got a very large heat shield in front of the forward cupola. So here we are, heading the rest of the way uphill and getting ready to burn to circularize. And there's that. So it's got 2 heat shields that protect whatever's docked to it, which in this case will be the landers. Those heat shields are right in front of the docking ports. There she is. So here's our first crew launching with its with the landing vehicle as well. Not much to say about this other than it's a pretty standard launch vehicle with liquid core stage, center stage, or whatever you want to call it, and then the 2 solid rocket boosters. The lander is a 2-stage vehicle with a suite of science instruments, and they will be easily able to get back from Duna's surface to rendezvous with the Interplanetary 3 science station. Coming up on staging. So I think I mentioned it in the beginning of the video that that this video is going to be all of the launchers, which there were, how many did I do? I did the Interplanetary 3, the 2 vehicles, landers, the crew transfer vehicle, and the tanker. So 5 launches. And then in the next video, I'll have departure from Kerbin and the landings on Duna. And then after that, there'll be another video for the return to Kerbin, which that's where things got very interesting. So here we are on approach, getting everyone lined up with the docking ports. And it wasn't the prettiest of rendezvous, but it's all good. We got there. The next one's a little smoother. The tanker is much better. If the video footage is going by too quick, let me know, because I was trying to keep as much footage in as possible, but also respect the viewer's time. So, like here, for instance, I cut out the launch completely because it's an identical lander. So I just have the approach and braking burn, or circularization burn, depending on which way you look at it. But so I definitely, it's very obvious I sped up a lot of the footage. But I tried to chop out a lot of the camera jumps, and but also keep the video comprehensive. So I think I found a pretty good balance, at least with the video footage that I have. Now going forward, if I make more Kerbal Space Program videos, I'll try to keep that in mind while I'm recording so that it's not jumping around as much. So anyways, both landers are docked, and now the next thing we need is to disarm the engines so that they're not misfiring while we're trying to do our burns for Duna. And after that, we'll launch our fuel tanker. And it is a behemoth of a rocket. At least as far as rockets I've built, it's pretty large. I know there's pretty big ones out there, that's for sure. But this one just kind of lumbers off the pad, and I let that hang for a second before speeding up the footage. It's completely liquid fueled with 6 side boosters, I should say, in an asparagus staging setup, which will leave the center core completely topped off once they stage. And we actually lucked out with this launch. I think it's pretty cinematic with the sunrise coming up here that we'll catch in a second. There's good staging. Pretty sure we don't have enough horizontal velocity to not bomb the Kerbal Space Center, so I think that's what just happened. Anyways, here's that beautiful lighting with the sunrise right here. This vehicle also has one extra crew member, not just a pilot, which is really all you'd need for refueling, but we've got I can't remember if this is an engineer or a scientist, but it's one extra Kerbal crew member for the station. So now I'm just setting up a rendezvous, or I'm sorry, I'm actually refining the rendezvous with the precise node mod. And looks like I've already executed that, so we've got the solar panels deployed. And now we're just coming up on our final intercept here. And like I said, this was a much smoother intercept or rendezvous than the previous ones. A little close though, a little close. A bit of a precursor for a couple of the bloopers at the end. I threw a couple bloopers in at the end, so stay tuned for those. Once again, like before in the other ones, we're getting all the docking ports lined up. And from here, I kind of set up a bit of a Kubrick cinematic 2001 Space Odyssey shot with a fixed camera and then the approaching vehicle coming into the frame. And I've been experimenting with the cameras here and there, like the stage separation and fairing separation shot at the beginning of the video. I was pretty happy with how that came out. So here's that. Now we've got to get the 2 landers topped off because they had to use a bunch of fuel to get up here in the first place. They're both right around plus or minus 50% full, it looks like. So they definitely needed to get topped off. Plus whatever monopropellant was used for any of the RCS on both of the landers and the Interplanetary 3. Now jumping ahead here, obviously we've got a new vehicle. It's pretty much the same thing as the landers, just stripped down. I've added a claw to the top. I'll talk about that in a second. This is just to add more crew to the station. So that claw is going to get rid of this stage. Now this was the stage that got the IP3 into its 500 by 500 kilometer orbit. It just didn't have any fuel to deorbit, and I've never really used the claw for any mission before, and I thought it might be fun to use it here. And I did a pretty good job, we'll see in a moment, with lining it up with the tank's center of mass. I was I was pretty happy about that. Now, I mean, it's not too hard, I don't think, because it's an empty tank with the two engines at the back there. Once again, I apologize about the jerky camera movements there, but anyways, we are decoupling the spent stage from the IP3. The crew has been all transferred, and now it's time to get rid of this debris. So we've drifted away from the station, and now it's time to deorbit. And as you can see in the bottom left, the attitude controls are pretty happy. They're not doing too much work here. There's a little camera on the left there, you can see. And I believe that was it as far as the deorbit burn goes. So we'll jump ahead here to entry, where I'll ditch the service module. And I like to get into like change the orientation of the vehicle and then decouple, so that it kind of chucks the whatever I'm decoupling from away from my trajectory. So that's that. Now the entry here got pretty spicy, because I don't know why I thought that this shape would be fine for entry. And now I chopped a lot of this up because the camera movement was so bad, and I didn't care to try to slow things down and speed things back up. I just chopped a bunch of stuff out. But it got pretty wild. You can see the nav ball's going pretty crazy. We're prograde. That's not what you want. And I really thought we were gonna lose it. I'm very surprised that this thing survived. Parachute came out, stayed intact, and once it inflated, the vehicle stabilized. So that was a success, but I will not be flying that again until I try to modify that, and maybe some air brakes will help. So anyways, now up here we're doing some final checkouts before the fuel tanker leaves. In fact, that's what this quick save was pretty much called, was final checkouts before tanker departure, something along those lines. Making sure everyone's topped off and happy. Got some great views way up here of the planet from the observation module. And with that, we'll say so long. Thank you for the resources. And this big tanker will be on its way. It's like a big whale. Wonderful. All right, we're safe, and we'll deorbit. And actually, I separate the capsule way up here. That's why it's jumping around like that so long. So with that, the ending of this video is just about here, because this is the final re-entry of all of our launches before Kerbin departure. So if you've stuck it through, I really appreciate it. And like I said, stay tuned for the end of the video, where there's going to be some bloopers. And stay tuned for the next videos where we finish the rest of the mission. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.